that don't fall in love with your product, but fall in love with the customer's problem and the speed at which you can solve it. We pretty much apply it to the way we design our products as well.
Who is the big picture thinker? Oh, okay. Consensus. I like that. That's good. Who is the grounded realist? Yeah.
Kind of.
Who is the cheerleader? Yeah.
Well, kind of both.
And as a couple and working together and founding a business, how do you establish those boundaries to kind of keep sort of work separate from you as a couple?
We have one thing, time. We are like, okay, this is the time we have to work. We have a set time that's like a purely personal time. And then no talking about business after 9 p.m.
We're joined today by not one, but two incredible guests, Gitansh Khirbat and Sneha Sant, co-founders of LygomextryX.AI, a cutting-edge startup using data and AI to supercharge retail sales through hyper-personalised shopping experiences. Their innovation and impact was recently recognised at the New and Emerging Startup Award at the Wyndham Business Awards. Gitansh brings over a decade of experience in machine learning and data science, having built and scaled data solutions across sectors such as finance and real estate for organisations including IBM, Move37, Redmarker, Hexa and Macquarie Group. He was also active in academia as a research scholar at the University of Melbourne and Monash University. Sneha, who is both Gitansh co-founder and life partner, comes from a biotech background and now leads operations as the COO at LygomextryX. With experience as a PhD researcher and early exposure to the retail world through her family's business, she brings a thoughtful and well-rounded perspective to the startup. From uni catch-ups to co-founding an award-winning startup, Gitansh and Sneha have an inspiring story to tell. Let's dive in. Look, so thank you both for joining me today. This is a Tales from Tech Titans first. We've never had two guests on the show, let alone a couple. So thank you for trailblazing with us today. And
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah, an absolute pleasure. There's three themes that we've kind of picked out from sort of looking into your backgrounds that we'd love to talk about today. The first one is unpacking your startup experience, including kind of how you came to be in Australia and your journey as migrants here. Secondly, looking around data, AI, machine learning, sort of what's topical right now, what are you kind of learning, what are you hearing, what's relevant, and then more specifically sort of data and AI and how's that playing out, particularly within retail and within what you guys are building with Lygometrix.
Perfect.
But before we get into that, we thought we'd play a little game just to try and warm us up. And I couldn't resist but take this opportunity to play a sort of game of Mr. and Mrs.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple. So see if you're ready for this. So I'm going to read out a statement, and then literally I'm just going to ask you just point to the person who you think it relates to.
Yeah.
Or point to both if it's or neither if it's neither of you. But it's going to be interesting to see how well you think you know each other and how you agree. So, first question: who is the big picture thinker? Oh, okay. Consensus. I like that. That's good. Who is the grounded realist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I was going to say who's the most humble, but I think I just figured that one out. So, who is the cheerleader?
Yeah. Well, kind of both.
Yeah.
Mostly him.
What does that look like, you as a cheerleader?
It's more of when you're running a startup, there are a lot of days in which feels like a roller coaster. So there are some ups and downs.
Yeah.
Whenever they are down, you have to be there for each other and cheer the other person up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would be like, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
Literally. And then he's like, now you can still do it.
Is that like 10:30 in the morning?
Literally starts any time of the day. I'd be like, I don't get it. I'm not doing it. This is not going anywhere kind of things. And he'll be like, no, you can still do it.
Okay.
We have a saying in which we repeat our names and we'll be like Gitansh Khirbat, and then we say flawless is our middle name. Flawless is the middle name. You have to do that. You have to self motivate and you have to motivate the other person as well. When you're in a startup environment.
Because it can be quite a lonely place, I think, starting up a business, particularly if you're on your own.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, there's a million and one distractions when you're working from home.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Things to find to be doing that aren't working on the business business that you're trying to build. So is that what you do? You keep each other accountable?
100%. Yes.
All the time we have to do that. It's like there are days when I kind of like slack off and I get distracted by, especially like, there are days when I'm supposed to do something related to our startup, but then a new paper gets published in immunology and I have to read it. And then it's like, no, distracted, let's get back on track. And then we have our to-do list that we have to ensure that it's not piling up or moving on to the next week. So in that sense, we do have what companies generally do, like a sprint, daily sprint, quick catch up at the end of the day, what we have achieved, where was the issue, kind of those things. And kind of works out, even though we work in the same office space, like literally sitting next to each other. You would think that, okay, this is going to be hard, but we have managed so far to have our professional and personal completely different.
Who's usually winning Employee of the Month?
Mostly it's him.
It's kind of both, but I would say that
and Josh.
So.
Josh is the like.
Is he the cheerleader?
He's the cheerleader, actually.
Cheerleader,
he is the cheerleader.
So tell me a bit about Josh, because that's how we met. Because initially, Josh was previously with Pexa, where I think you worked together. So what role does he play within the business?
So Josh holds the title of Chief Customer and Commercial Officer, which pretty much translates to that he's the person who gets the sales and marketing strategy for the company.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because I come from a core tech background and Sneha comes from more of a research and operations background. And that's why we needed someone who could complement our skills. And that's where I met Josh. Funnily enough, I ran into Josh just outside the bathrooms of Flinders Street Station, and both of us were excited to see each other. And we struck a conversation that what are you up to these days? And I think that was the time we just had won a pitch competition, the Winnovation pitch competition. Actually, we were the runners up over there. And I think that's how Josh came to know that I'm working on my own startup. So we struck a conversation, and he said that this is fantastic, and I think this is going to be revolutionary going forward for the retail sector. And that's when we decided to keep follow up meetings and those kind of things. Showed him the product, showed him our vision, our strategy, and he has been part of it ever since. He officially started, I think, in Jan this year.
Yep.
So
again, what that story shows is the importance of leaning on your network.
Exactly.
And the relationships you've got. But the other thing as well that I'm sensing from the way that you kind of describe the division of duties is knowing your strengths and your weaknesses.
100%.
And where you've got those gaps.
100%. So I would say that when you're running a startup, right, it's quite fundamentally different when as compared to your big corporates. So I come from a mix of startups as well as corporate in terms of my career. And what I've seen is that when you are working in a big corporate, there are like huge teams and there are plenty of resources at your disposal. But when you're talking about startups, there's usually a lean team. In this case, there are just 3 of us. And what that means is that even though we bear the title of C something, maybe CEO, CTO, and so on, but actually it's about, it's less about the titles and more about, juggling different responsibilities. Yeah. And that's where you have to be resourceful in terms of, how you plan your day-to-day activities and how you plan your operations overall. And I think that's where Sneha is doing a fantastic job in allocating what should be done and, sort of like streamlining what we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it definitely takes a village. And I think the way that you do these things, and as you say, I think as a startup, it's very easy to feel that you're filling your day with activity.
That's true.
But is that leading to the productive outcome or the goal that you're striving to get towards?
Yes.
And when you're on your own, there's no reality check for that, right?
Yeah.
And you can feel very busy and accomplished, but have you progressed something that day?
Absolutely. And that's precisely why we have structured our operations in a way that it's pretty similar to the way any engineering team works. Engineering plus product team. For example, we have fortnightly sprints. We have fortnightly retros where we come together and see what worked, what did not work, and how we can improve.
Yep.
Because being a startup, being a lean startup and a lean team, what it means is that we have speed as one of our biggest strengths.
Yep.
So that's where we try to get the most value out of all of our strengths combined. And yeah, that's it's been working so far so good. Yeah,
I think that's a really relevant point, that when you're a small business, you don't have the scale to compete with the large organizations with the deep pockets and the endless resources.
Absolutely.
But what you have in your strength is agility.
100%.
Yes.
And your ability to wake up one morning and try something completely different and new.
Absolutely.
And if you don't lean into that strength or maximize the potential of that strength, you're missing an opportunity, I think.
That's correct.
True.
Yeah.
So it's how you do that, and but how you pick the right things as well.
Exactly.
So you don't waste a day.
How you prioritize, and
That's right.
so that's where I would probably recommend having a strategy that is ruthless prioritization. So have a list of all your to-do list, the tasks that you need to do, and then you have to prioritize ruthlessly, which means that if there are like 10 things that are on your radar, pick the top 3 that move the needle the most.
Yep.
And just go full on.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great. I'm going to go back to the Mr. and Mrs. because
Absolutely.
there's a couple
Yeah.
more, but it's just tender. Who is the detail-obsessed perfectionist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the most stressed right now about this podcast?
About the podcast, yeah. Probably. So I'll have to be, we can explain a little bit more over here, because stress is something that we manage in a very different way. So we don't feel stressed in terms of, handling the operations or those kind of things. It's more about, what kind of feedback we get, and what kind of things do sell. So that's where we try to understand, what are the major drivers of this particular feedback, and it doesn't really equate to stress. So in a short like TLDR, I would say that none of us are stressed per se, but it's more of how we manage the day-to-day operations. Yeah.
For me, like as an individual, I believe that stress actually drives me.
Yeah.
So that helps me to move forward or do things like whatever is affecting me or causing it, I would focus on that and try to overcome that, rather than just going back in my cocoon and be like, nah, I don't want to face it, or I don't want to do it. This was one of the things when I switched slightly my field, moving into AI. I was like, I wouldn't understand a thing about it. But I had 2 options. Either I learn or I just give up. But then I was like, okay, every day needs to be a learning process for us. And that's life. That's how you would grow as an individual, for the company as well. So that stress was important. Like, oh, I don't know about this, so I need to read about it. Or I don't know this, I need to do this. So it kind of is like driving you to move ahead. Like it keeps pushing you to go beyond your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So like right now, yes, but I'm enjoying it.
Did you, when you first stepped into the kind of domain of AI, that's a very broad term, but away from what you've been doing historically, did you ever feel that kind of sense of imposter syndrome?
Yes, like even during immunology it happens. But that said, I think kind of like it's, I would say it's kind of like you would want to know more, and at the same time you feel like you don't know enough. And there is like, you have to set boundaries though. Like you have to know, okay, I need to stop at this stage because I can't go really deep at this stage of my life in this new domain, but I need to have enough knowledge, be like a multilingual, because it's the world of generalists now. There is no one with specific talent. It's no more that's not a requirement now. So being able to connect 2 different disciplines was what I wanted to do, without actually dwelling really deep into it, because so I managed to get information nuggets and knowledge nuggets every now and then from Gitansh, because he is the expert over here. And at the same time, like with regards to marketing, for example, initially before Josh came into picture, I was responsible for the GTM, and I was like, I have no idea about it kind of things. But slowly I learned about it. I've been reading a lot. I've been bringing into practice. But now with Josh on board, every day is like a huge learning. For me, I keep learning from him. He has the way he works, the way he interacts with the customers. That's given me a broader picture of what the sales looks like, or how we deal with customers in general.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah. Currently, probably I'm stepping into 3 different domains.
Yeah.
And still keeping my love for immunology alive.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I think when I did the background research on you, it was, I hope I'm going to pronounce this right. Is it Pune or Pune University? Pune University?
Yep.
Was that home for you as well? Did you grow up in that part of India?
Most of my life, yes, because the nature of job my dad had, we pretty much traveled across India. So I was born in the southern state of India. My parents belong to two different states of India.
Yeah.
And then we traveled to like pretty much 10 different states in India.
Yeah, wow.
So my brother and I ended up learning 8 different languages.
Oh, wow.
Which was fun. And which also made speaking at home fun, because we would come up with different, like mixing up the languages. And I think only my mom and dad would understand what we wanted to say, essentially. That said, yes, my whole family pretty much comes from commerce background. I was probably the first one taking up biology. My mom really wanted me to be a computer engineer. I loved maths. I love science. But biology was somehow more attractive at that point. So I ended up doing biotechnology, bachelor's, master's, worked in a government institute focusing on infectious disease research. That really got me interested in immunology.
I saw that was HIV research.
Yes, it was on HIV research. And then while reading papers, I came across a researcher, my PhD supervisor, Catherine Kidjerska, because her PhD was in HIV, and then I moved. Currently, she's researching in influenza and COVID. So I wrote to her. She is probably the most fabulous supervisor I've ever come across. Had a great PhD with her. We have continued relationships. We keep doing research together still. And then moved on. With immunology as focus, T cell, which is one of the immune component, I moved to breast cancer research in my postdoc. Again, an amazing field. My boss, my ex-boss now, my current boss is different. Force of nature, really world-renowned breast cancer oncologist. Had a great time doing research there.
Because I think I read in your background that you had a mentor that was a Nobel laureate?
Yes, so...
There's not many people that can claim that. That's pretty impressive.
We were part of the Doherty group. So Peter Doherty got the Nobel Prize in 1996 for discovering how T cells get activated, essentially. And under him, we had 3 different group leaders, my PhD supervisor being one of them. And that's how he was heavily involved in our research. Was fun learning a lot from him. He is an amazing individual and scientist, both a great mentor for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. So your mum got what she wanted because you've ended up in computer science.
Yes.
So
she's happy now.
Did she say, I told you so?
Yes, she did. She's like, I know you would fall in love with computers eventually. Because even during my PhD, I could see like a lot of us basic biologists pretty much go with traditional software or something. And we rely heavily on computational scientists to do our deep analysis. But the problem was that both speak different jargons, and making meaningful connections of the data was kind of difficult. And that's when I started doing my own data analysis, and I started learning that kind of jargon, and it became easier for me to talk to a bioinformatician or a computational biologist and explain them what I wanted out of my data, or what's coming out of my data, for example. That's when the whole tech aspect developed inside me even more. And then we met in university. and his project was quite interesting, and then just curiosity inside me, I was like
this is only quite interesting.
So
Absolutely.
discussing things with him was a lot of fun. Like
Yeah.
he would introduce me to new concepts, and I was like, I've never heard of this before, kind of things. And I think it was the deep desire, like the curiosity, the deep desire to learn things, which got us together, and we would keep exploring other new technologies while also focusing on individual careers
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah, amazing. And in terms of your background, Gitansh, I think I read that you were, was it Manipal University?
That's correct.
Remember?
Yep.
And that's got an incredible alumni. I saw the Microsoft CEO.
That's correct. Yes.
Satya Nadella.
Satya Nadella,
Yeah.
yes.
And
from-
also Varun Mavia. You know
Yep.
Varun?
Yep.
Maybe not personally, but founder of
wish.
Avalon Labs. So some pretty impressive alumni. And you obviously went there to study in computing, I think information and communication. Was that what you always wanted to do as a kid? Was that what your mum was telling you to do as well?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because when I was a four-year-old, I guess, back in the early 90s, that's when I first heard of the term computer, and I just fell in love with it. But when I went to the middle school, or senior school, I would say grade 9, 10, I got a really soft spot for biology, interestingly.
Yeah.
So you see the contrast over here.
Yeah.
But then as I grew to the high school, I think engineering is something which kind of resonated with me the most, because I believe in problem solving, and that's probably one of my biggest strengths. That if at all there's something which is going wrong, or which needs an instant solution, that's where Gitansh should come in.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, maybe engineering is something which I should pursue. But what exactly in engineering? And that's where computer science and the love for computer science grew back again, because coding is something which I really enjoyed back in high school. So that kind of led me into my undergrad degree in engineering and computer science.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So I saw after that you then worked for a number of organizations in India.
That's correct.
And then you both ended up, I'm assuming you didn't know each other before you came to Australia, but you both ended up here in 2014.
Yeah, that's true.
Both at Melbourne University, I think, at the same time. And that's when you met and you were project partners, as you described.
Yeah, 6 months later is when we met, actually. It was basically an Indian dance festival. That's where we met.
And then bonded over a shared love of Excel, by the sound of it.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's actually that plus coffee. So we both are coffee lovers. And there used to be this place called House of Cards back in Melbourne Uni, and it's one of the best coffees on campus. So we used to just hang out there and discuss anything and everything about tech, non-tech, politics, and whatnot. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's where probably the first project even started. I think the roots of the first project, which was more about developing educational apps for virtual reality. So we got a grant for that and started working first time, where we saw that the skills that we have, they are quite complementary, and that's where probably the work relationship also started.
Yeah.
So we fell in love with that idea. We fell in love with working with each other, and eventually fell in love with each other. Yeah.
And how did you both find moving to Australia? I mean, how did it meet your expectations coming from India? Was it kind of what you thought it was going to be like when you got here? Was it different? What did that look like?
Like I said, when we met, Australia was completely a different picture. For me, it was like what was shown in TV shows for us. And then the day I landed, I realized that it was much more than what they show on TV. It's very multicultural, diverse, very welcoming. I had really good experience. As a girl, you would say that in India we have more of restrictions that we can't go out and all, but I felt more secure here. In that sense. Talking about education, I really enjoyed the flexibility and really the encouragements we are given in exploring different aspects. Like, it's not restricted that you have to focus on this. You can go above and beyond. include new technologies or explore new courses part of your PhD. In that sense, it felt really good, very safe, very inclusive. My supervisors were very great. My co-supervisor, who is my best friend, amazing person who really made me comfortable in my life settling personally and like from PhD perspective as well. So in that sense, I felt really good. Pune is a very multicultural place, so that made me feel the same in Melbourne, especially. I've spent pretty much all my 10 years in Melbourne. That said, even I had not planned to stay in Australia for long, like until I met him, because for me it was like, okay, PhD over here, postdoc in US, that's it, like, and then think about your next 5 years after that postdoc. But things change.
What was that plan informed by? Is that kind of a common path of what sort of people within India, what they're kind of considering in terms of how they advance?
Pretty much, like most of us, the first country we choose if we have to for education purposes, mostly US. But for me, it was more around the research, like what was the research group doing, and that's how I ended up with the lab that I wanted to work with. And quite an unusual part, because that's Australia is not the first choice. Quite often it's mostly it's some European country, mostly Germany in that case, or US. Even for postdoc, I really wanted to explore a different country, and that's why US was there. But plans change. I met him, and then we decided that, okay, let's call Australia our home now. And we did have initially a plan of going to US as well. Then COVID happened, and that's again plan change. So here we are, 10 years now, 11 years.
How about your experience? Was it kind of as you expected?
It's quite interesting. So I was working at IBM back in 2013 when I decided that I should apply for a PhD because natural language processing, NLP, that was at that time pretty rave, especially because of IBM Watson, which recently had won a quiz show at that time. It used to be Jeopardy. I don't know if you remember or not. So that's when I first when I was in IBM, I got to know about IBM Watson, and then I was like, I want to work on something like that. Because what I was working on at IBM was more of traditional software engineering. And that's where I thought that my skills, since I was coming from a research bent of mind, I thought that it's probably a good idea to apply for a PhD position. So the next question, a very gradual one, was where to apply. So Australia was, of course, one of the choices. US, of course, there were a couple of universities that I was thinking of applying to. But when I did my applications, I got an instant approval from one of the supervisors over here in Australia. And I just thought that it's probably the best. Because Melbourne University in itself, the computer science department, it's well known for research, and it's well known for its alumni and so on. So having a strong mathematical background and computer science and coding background, I thought that let's just give it a shot and go to Australia. I didn't know anyone here. So I had no friends or relatives over here at that time. And eventually I found out that there were a couple of distant relatives who are here, which I'm thankful now. But I started my PhD, and the first thing that I came to probably know after landing in Australia, or really appreciate, was the multicultural aspect of how Australians conduct their business and how relaxed they are in terms of the working environment, the discussions, and so on. When I started my PhD, it was quite different from what I thought that it would be. The reason is that when you're talking about computer science and engineering in general, it's quite siloed in the way it works, and that's where probably what I found was eventually that my skills are more of application based, which ties to the story about problem solving that I was discussing before. So eventually what I realized over the course of my PhD, maybe 2 years in or something, I thought that this is probably not for me. And that's when I decided that I should do a pivot and go towards more of an application side of things.
Yep.
So I dropped out of PhD and joined the startup side of things, and been lucky enough to work at some of the biggest organizations in Australia, including PEXA and Macquarie. So that was good.
Yeah.
I think that's what probably drove me in even starting my own business at the moment. That's the experience that I had overall.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So what was there, or can you both remember that kind of aha moment when you decided that this is the moment when we're going to do this and we're going to set up this business?
Yeah, probably COVID was the time when we got to spend a lot of time together, and we thought that it would be a good productive way of using our times if we are working on at least something which is interesting, or which is probably involves a lot of data, involves a lot of new solutions and so on. And what we realized was that during COVID times, the online shopping started peaking a lot. And we, of course, were doing a lot of online shopping back then too. And what we thought and what we came to understand was that the online shopping industry is broken.
Yep.
Because on one hand, you have the customers who are always searching for the best products and trying to get all the reviews sorted and trying to get all the product features and whatnot, which leads to opening like tens of different tabs on your devices. And on the other hand, you have retailers who have their fair share of problems around things like cart abandonment, things like giving the perfect customer experience, and so on. So we had a quick discussion with a couple of our friends who were facing kind of similar problems. And we thought that, hey, it would be good if we can at least whip up a proof of concept, sort of a POC, which solves this problem. And we kind of came up with that, V 1.0, a very basic MVP, which we flicked across with our friends, and they loved it. They were like, "This is really good." But then probably the pivotal moment for us was on November 2022 when ChatGPT was unleashed onto the world. And that's where we probably started revisiting the idea and tried to understand that what are the applications that potentially could be. And what we found out at that time was that the MVP that we had, it was more of customer centric, sort of a B2C model. We quickly realized that this is something which eventually would be, catered to by, tools like OpenAI and ChatGPT. And that was the time.
Which they pretty much did it today, actually.
Exactly.
They just
so just before coming to this podcast.
Just today?
Just today.
Oh, wow.
So we fortunately had that insight about 12 months ago or so, when we pivoted the entire product to focus more on B2B. And
interesting. Okay.
That has been working really well for us.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, during COVID, most people got bored and went and got a pet dog. They got a Groodle. You launched a startup. That's probably fairly unique. So let's talk about the product. So the elevator pitch then. So specifically, what problem let's say from a B2B perspective, what problem is it that you guys are solving?
If we have to summarize it in one word, I would say that small to medium retailers don't really have big budgets to have their own data science teams.
Yep.
And that's where we come in. And that's where we provide solutions which are data-backed and which are machine learning models which they can plug and play onto their systems to provide personalized product recommendations and dynamic pricing and price optimization for the products. Yep. So how this works is that it's the product recommendation side of things. It's more of something similar to an agentic AI, which sits on the retailer's website.
Yep.
And the customers who are going to the retailer's website, they are greeted not by a regular chatbot, but more of a smart bot, where they can discover new products. They can chat to the product to the agent in more of a more natural language way, or in a more conversational way, to get personalized product recommendations, to get product features, to know more about product features, even all the FAQs and whatnot. And another product that we are currently testing with a lot of retailers is a price optimization tool, which pretty much gives them the power of winning the pricing war when they are trying to price their product in a way that it beats the competitors. Meanwhile, gives them the margin that they should be getting.
So how does that work? That essentially would scan competitor websites for similar products and then help them pick their price point specific to what the consumer wants to pay?
Absolutely. So the retailer can actually select their competitors, and they can upload, or they can select the number of products or kind of products that they want to monitor. And all they need to do is just hit the button about compare the prices, and it starts comparing. The tool starts comparing all the prices across different products across different retailers, and they get a nice dashboard in which they can monitor how the prices changed and how the prices evolved. For example, if there's a sales season, right? We are about to witness the EOFI sales, which is gonna go take the tool to sort of like handle crazy amounts of traffic. So usually what happens is that the retailers are always trying to give the best prices to the customers, and the customers are also trying to get the comparison across all the different retailers which are out there. One of the examples could be iPhone 16 just released, right? And JB Hi-Fi has priced it to, let's say, $1,600. Maybe there's Harvey Norman, which priced it to probably $20 lesser, and then Officeworks for $20 lesser, and so on. And being a customer, you would obviously want to shop around, but as a retailer, the retailer doesn't really have insights around why the customer is dropping off, because it's been eaten off by another competitor. So this kind of tool gives you the best way in monitoring the prices and pricing the product in a way that resonates the most with the customer.
That's interesting. And you said your kind of target audience for this is small, medium-sized retail companies. What kind of, is it all retail? What kind of retail products would be working through the platform?
It's mostly electronics, fashion, home and garden, and cosmetics. So these are a couple of categories that we cater to, and most of our clients are from that domain. But it's pretty scalable in the nature that we have built it. So even if let's say a wine shop, or let's say if there's a variety store which probably wants to use this kind of tool, it can be optimized for that too.
Yeah, great. And you said sort of small to medium. What would kind of be the cap on that? What kind of size organization would that go up to?
That's a good question. So I would say that these are mainly the teams who don't have a specific data science teams. So anywhere between startups all the way to retailers who have, let's say, 200 to 500 people working for them. But we are also in talks with a couple of bigger retailers too. So I think it's a solution which will benefit most of us, most of the retailers.
It's I've said this many times on the podcast, and I say it many times in real life as well. But I feel that startups fail around often around this kind of core concept of what I call or the statement of fall in love with your customers' problems, not your solutions.
Absolutely.
And many 100%. Startups love their solution, and they forget the customer problem. How do you stay kind of true to that sentiment?
It's a very important aspect, actually, and it reminds me of a quote which I read in the Lean Startup by Eric Ries. So it says that don't fall in love with your product, but fall in love with the customer's problem and the speed at which you can solve it. And we pretty much apply it to the way we design our products as well. So one of the things which you might notice if you are working in a startup scenario is finding that product market fit. And what that basically means is that don't keep building, or don't even start building if you haven't even validated the problem. So what we rely on the most is talking to our customers and finding more about what are their problems. So that's how we actually began.
Yeah.
Remember the story about the friends and family, how we were experiencing something for which we designed a POC. And then in a similar way, we talked to a lot of retailers, and we started understanding their pain points. And one of the pain points was that providing personalized solutions or personalized products to the customers, just how you would experience an in-store shopping assistant to behave. Their chatbots or their existing solutions were not providing that kind of solution, and that's where we were like, how about if we include that feedback and build a smart bot which gives the customers the best customer experience or the best shopping experience.
Yeah.
And that's what started selling.
Because I think what's interesting is if you go to a website, let's say Amazon, that's probably one of the biggest websites in the world in terms of product set, and you don't know what you're looking for, you're just window shopping.
Yep.
It's pretty de-energizing pretty quick.
Exactly.
Right? You kind of just scrolling and looking for ideas. And but I know from personal experience, if you use Amazon and you buy things from Amazon, eventually the recommendations and the so forth that come through are normally fairly on point.
Exactly.
But from a window shopping experience, the internet's never really, or e-commerce has never really nailed that, I guess. But that's what you're talking about here, though, isn't it? Essentially, you're enabling a window shopping experience for somebody to just go and immerse themselves in what the possibilities are.
For the non-Amazon retailers.
Exactly. For the non-Amazon retailers, so that they can get similar capabilities as compared to as what Amazon offers, because like Amazon is probably the epitome of shopping or e-commerce world. Yeah. But a lot of small retailers don't have that kind of capabilities with which they can offer similar features. And that's where we are like, you don't have to develop it in-house. You can actually use this product and start competing at a similar level.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you think maybe your academic backgrounds and the way that you kind of came to this point, how's that enabled you or helped you to be successful at what you're doing today? I guess it's probably fairly obvious for yourself, but I'm interested with you, sort of, Sneha. How does that kind of lend itself into what you're trying to build?
Quite a few qualities I developed as an academic has helped me a lot with startup. One thing being, being adaptable, having the perseverance, having the drive, like getting up every day and doing the work, because that pretty much is what we do in academia. We have a project and we have to come up with the solution. We have to do the research. We have to develop the experiments. Essentially, it was similar in this case where he was the one actually running the experiments, but I was like, okay, this is how I would see would be an important feature in the product, or this is what I think is trying to identify the problems from the retailers' conversations. Okay, this is what they're missing, and they're probably stuck at understanding that this can be solved in certain way. That kind of researching experience helped me a lot. The drive to learn new things was very important. Like that really helped me a lot. I was a bit intimidated by the whole idea of startup, but then eventually I realized, because in academia, we strongly just we go really deep into our particular field. Whereas in startup, it's like, yes, you have to know it, but you have to quickly execute and keep moving forward. That's something that I've learned over the last 2 years. And but to do that, I needed to be motivated every day. And that kind of comes from my academic background that I could put into.
I guess also people often think when you've been in an academic environment, you've not had that commercial exposure.
Yes.
But I kind of contest that, because I think when you have to put together a thesis,
it is commercial.
Or a research paper,
exactly.
You just have to present that to someone that's going to test you.
It is self-marketing here. Like my project is so amazing. Please have a look at it.
That's
right.
Like, and you have to defend it.
Yeah, we have to defend it. We have to give. We have to put the correct points out there. We have to identify the problems and back it with the hypothesis with our experiments and say that, okay, this is what I found, this is what I've done. And quite often the public thinks that scientists are like these introverted individuals sitting in the lab in a corner just writing or doing experiments. That's not how it is. It's like you have to go out there and tell the world that I have worked on it. This is the information which might help in probably a drug development or some other product development. This is like, this definitely involves you to come out and talk about it, market yourself, get an understanding that, this problem is going to lead to a solution. Like, for example, some medtech company might employ based on your discovery. Okay, this is something we can develop in probably like, the smart ring, for example. That's like the health monitoring system. But before that comes the basic research on what do we measure to understand, okay, my heart is not beating correctly. Those kind of research is what we do, but that information has to come out. So that is also to some level commercialization.
100%. Yeah, completely. I also know from looking at your background that your mum has a retail business in silk saris.
Yes.
How did that kind of influence your decision to get involved in the retail space? Was that just pure coincidence?
Well, as growing up, we had to earn our allowances.
Yeah.
So one of the thing was helping my mom. She had to quit her job to take care of us because my dad had this job where he had to move around the country. So one of her parents had to take the decision here. So she decided to start her sari business, silk sari. And because we were moving around, she had a lot of experience with different silk saris coming from different regions of India. So our job was to help her out in, like, say, packaging or like putting up the labels or doing the inventory, counting what's what there. Whenever a new shipment comes, we had to make sure that it's going in the correct direction. Or even when mom's client would come, we were like, the salespeople just wearing it across and showing it. So those kind of like work. And eventually when growing up, we got more involved, deeper into it. And I realized that 20 years ago, it was like a brick and mortar. People would come and see, but now it's getting like more online which allows people to see your product in front of their computer from a very long distance when they can't reach you. So that's when I realized that this has a huge potential. My mom can really go beyond this, or other businesses like my mom's can go beyond this. That was one thing. And second, it was like trying to explore new businesses was another, which generally happens like, you recommend that, oh, there's this lady selling this particular sari. Rather than that, like, sometimes it becomes an internet discovery, like Instagram and TikTok being one of the domains. Then my brother and I had this very small, short business of ours where I would draw the greeting card and he was involved in the sales, where I would go on selling it during Diwali, which is like one of the biggest festivals we have in India. And that was another small retail experience we had.
So you've always been an entrepreneur. That's what I mean.
At heart.
Yeah.
I think that stems a lot from my parents, because my dad always encouraged us to do that. And that was mostly because he would say, you have to earn money. You can't ask for pocket money just like that. Like, if you want to buy it, you have to do something in return. Like, it's going to be like that. And that's pretty much, and quite often I didn't have my friends doing same, so we would always be like, oh, they just get it whatever they want, why do we have to earn that? But I'm grateful that this was something we learned in childhood, because that has helped us set up what we are doing. The courage to go and come up with something, the courage to get out of a comfortable job and try something again, or start a startup, which I had no idea of what it was. But right now, like in India, there's a new wave of startups. Like, everyone is really excited. Everyone is trying to come together, identify problems. So that was another motivation. And we actually, when I finished my PhD, when he finished his uni, for our respective careers, we were in 2 different cities. I was in Melbourne and he was in Sydney. Post-marriage, again, it was like every weekend he would fly in and out. So we really didn't have much time back then. COVID is when we got together and we were like, okay, let's start again our startup venture now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as a couple, and working together and founding a business, how do you establish those boundaries to kind of keep sort of work separate from you as a couple?
We have one thing, time. We are like, okay, this is the time we have to work. It's pretty much like the office culture you would have. Like you go to office 9 to 5, 6, 7, whatever. You have set time where you're purely working. You wouldn't be doing any other personal work.
Yeah.
That's kind of the culture we have set up in our business as well. So if it's like, we both love hiking and he's been encouraging me a lot to go to the gym, so we have a set time where that's like a purely personal time. And then no talking about business after 9 p.m. Like, no. Unless it's absolutely urgent, otherwise no.
Unless the system is down or system is broken.
That's the level of urgency we have set rules like, okay, this is urgent, this is urgent, this is urgent. But I read some article I want to discuss about, I would be like, okay, we can start this tomorrow, we can talk about it. So it kind of helps to set that boundary and have us separated our personal and professional life in that sense.
Because again, I think that's the hard thing when you're setting up a business, is the ability to switch off.
Yes.
And realize that you also have to have a personal life, and when you have a job, let's say, it's more defined and easier to have those boundaries.
Yes. So quite often it happens that he ends up discussing, he wants to say something when I'm cooking, or like I want to tell something, and then we're like, no, it's past 9 p.m. We're not talking about it.
Yeah, you just have a whiteboard to write those things up to talk about tomorrow.
That's it. Yeah.
And we've got 2 cats. So one of the cat is like very talkative. So he's like an alarm. He gets really activated after 9 p.m. and he's like, you're not talking about business anymore.
So the cat keeps you in check.
He definitely does that.
Who would have thought?
I've recently converted to be a cat person about 2 or 3 years ago, and so I'm sold. I get it completely. So, all right, I'm going to move on a little bit, probably into a bit more the second theme, and I'm keen to sort of understand what you're kind of hearing and seeing, or what's exciting you at the moment within AI and machine learning. I read somewhere that you're an associate editor, I believe, or maybe you were previously with Towards Data Science.
That's correct. Yeah.
So what's the kind of hot topic right now in the world of data science?
There's a huge list. I can speak at length about that.
Yeah.
But one thing which everyone is going crazy about is rise of agentic AI.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that there are tools being developed which can pretty much do stuff for you, take instructions from you, and delegate those. You as a person can delegate those tasks to these agents, which can complete the tasks for you. For example, if it's booking a flight,
Yep.
or ordering something at a particular point of time, or maybe ordering flowers on your anniversary, which I
You got no excuse now ever to forget. That's right.
You can't forget now anymore.
I can't forget anymore. So agentic AI is definitely something which is going crazy. Everyone is going crazy about. Vibe coding is another one. Yeah.
So can I ask a question about that? And this is very simple, sort of layman's terms. And it was something I was thinking about when we were speaking earlier about retail and the way that kind of e-commerce has evolved. I'm old enough that I was kind of around before the internet as an adult. And I remember sort of first interacting with e-commerce and when Amazon and these websites and so forth were first developed. And there was probably a thought at the time of, would people trust the internet to make transactions, to put a credit card? This is before cybersecurity was even a thing, right? And I remember having this conversation with someone a few years later, and we were talking about what's the most amount of money you would spend on the internet without meeting or seeing the product. And we were talking about, would you book a flight? Would you book a holiday? Would you buy a car? Would you buy a house? How far? What's the biggest transaction where you would kind of trust to spend? And I think we've come a long way since then, right? I'm not sure anyone would ever buy a house without ever seeing it. Maybe through the internet. Maybe they would. Maybe that's a thing.
I think that is happening now.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard a couple of instances where people would buy it looking at the internet. And there was this one time where a lady bought what she thought was antique from the Facebook marketplace and she spent around 50,000 or something, and it wasn't antique apparently.
Yeah.
But she did go ahead with that.
But that's the trust thing, isn't it? Our trust of the internet and the
Yes.
trust of e-commerce has gone up significantly. I remember having this conversation, it must have been about 10 years ago now, and I was asking the room the question, the last time you booked a holiday, who went into a travel agent? This was to a young group, right?
Yep.
So then these would have been a relatively low value holiday type, because
Yep.
only one person. The other people had never been into a travel agent. They'd always booked their holidays online. And we talked about what extent of a holiday would you want to go and talk to someone, talk to an expert and so forth. Anyway, then someone put their hand up and said that they just bought a car online. They'd never been to the garage. They'd never test driven the car.
Wow.
It was from a main dealer. They kind of, and it was a big transaction.
Yeah.
And it kind of blew people's minds
Yep.
at the time. Anyway, it's a really long-winded way of kind of getting to my point, which is listening to you talking about using an AI agent to book a flight for you, to organise maybe organise flowers is a minor example, but let's say organise a flight, or do something significant.
Right.
I'm just curious about where that trust level sits and how much does your average person trust that this is actually going to be acted in the way that they want it to be done?
That's a very important question, and the way agentic AI is evolving, there are ways in which we can actually put some safeguards and guardrails in trying to give specific instructions so that the agent doesn't go rogue. So in Australia, we have National AI Centre, NAIC. I think it's a spin-off, or I think dedicated team from CSIRO, who have a list of 10 different principles in which you can construct your AI application, and that's more of how you handle the data, how you keep the data secure, and how you make sure that the machine learning model doesn't go astray, or at least if they are making a prediction, then it should be explainable. And honestly, hence the name, hence you see X over here, because X.AI pretty much stands for explainable AI. What that means is that the decisions that the system is doing on the basis of data, every decision can be explained using different parameters. It's not that you're talking to a black box and they are doing the decision for you, but it's more of these are the factors on the basis of which the decision is made. And what that means for the retailers or for our customers is that the retailers can actually see those parameters, and they can see and they can pretty much tweak those parameters in order to give the best results to the customers, while making sure that everything is safe and secure. We don't process transactions, so we don't have to worry about that at the moment. But even in future, for example, if there are any transactions being processed by such agents, then there needs to be have these kind of guardrails in place, which protect all the conversations and which protect all the data that's coming along.
But it's interesting that you're saying the explainable AI. And I feel a bit naive. I've never heard of that concept before today, but I love it. And what you're also talking about, I kind of liken that to a maths equation. And you'll be able to see the workings.
Exactly.
To understand how you got to the
Absolutely.
answer. Otherwise, you have the problem and the solution. And I think, again, I was actually talking to someone about this, maybe it was this week or last week, but I've noticed now a feature, and again, I may be about to show my naivety, but a feature in some AI tools where you'll write a prompt and it will actually pause and it will almost have like a spinning circle. It's kind of, and I don't think it's actually doing that intent. I don't think it's actually going off and processing and thinking. I think it's just giving me as a human the experience of a pause. So I feel that
you feel more secure.
That's right. I feel more confident because the machine's thought about its answer before it's given it to me.
That's true.
Is that a concept, or is that I'm just?
It's a concept now, and it's mainly, I would say that it kind of gives you that effect that the model is thinking, and in the background it actually is thinking, because it's referring to more resources. And there's a principle called as chain of thought, which pretty much translates to how you are linking different contexts or different prompts which are there in your chat history for any LLM, and then on the basis of processing all that, you are kind of distilling the information which is coming out of the LLM as a response. and then pretty much you're ranking everything on the basis of certain parameters, which of course you can define, and that ties to the explainable part as well. But yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah,
it's happening. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's part of the UI UX.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's helping humans to get comfortable with
100%.
what they're doing, isn't it? It's,
Absolutely.
And I think there's human behavior that is always going to be slower to evolve than the technology.
Yeah.
And if the two can catch up, people become more confident to use the tech, I think.
100%. And I think that's where adaptability also comes in. Because imagine if ChatGPT or any LLM, now we have DeepSeek and whatnot, if they had an interface which was hard to use, then they wouldn't have seen the growth of traffic that they are seeing at the moment.
That's right.
So it's pretty interesting that a lot of thought is put into the way the product is developed, which looks appealing to the retailers, or in this case, to the end customers. We can share an anecdote ourselves. Like the first version for the B2B app that we made, it was more of
it looked very tech-like.
It looked very tech-like. A techie like me would appreciate what it is. But when I showed it to Sneha and even Josh when he joined, so it took me a while to explain, which means that A, it wasn't intuitive, and B, I'm not even able to get a buy-in from my own team. So imagine if I take that product to the retailer, to my end customer, how are they going to to perceive that? And that's when I made the UI so simple and so easy to use that the version that we have now, I don't even have to explain. I just flick it across and they can start using it right away.
Even your cat can use it.
Even my cat can use it.
That's
Yes,
right. But I think you're right. I think as well that's human behavior, human experience.
Yeah.
We're probably 16 years or so, 17 years since the first iPhone.
Yes.
And suddenly apps.
I feel old.
And you look at the average app. An app doesn't come with a training manual.
No.
You load the app, you open it up.
Exactly.
You've got to be able to figure it out
Yep.
probably within a few minutes. It doesn't matter if it's a game or any kind of application. Otherwise, imagine that the drop off of consumers from those apps.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys must know the data on this.
Yep.
It's your world, but that always resonates with me. I think again, I come from a world where you bought software, you were trained on how to use it.
Yeah.
But that again is so archaic now.
100%. I mean, even look at Google, right? Google, I think, was launched in early 90s or late 90s, can't remember.
2000.
It's been more than 20 years for sure.
Yep.
And their main product is still that search bar.
Yes.
There's a lot of thought that went into designing that simple product.
Yeah.
And of course, there are lots of evolution at the back end logic, how ranking is done and how results are shown. But at the core of it, it's just a small search bar where you can enter your products.
Well, the proof of success of Google is that it's become a verb. If people now say, "I'm going to Google this,"
Yes.
it's the actual product name has become synonymous with the action that you're undertaking, which is incredible.
Yeah, same with Zoom, same with Facebook, and so on.
Yeah, that's right. So if you think about your own personal journey, where you kind of started out within computer science and kind of learning about that, compared to where we are today, how far has that come in terms of your skill set and your knowledge of what you're applying today?
I would say a lot because my core training has been in software engineering during my undergrad days, and then when I did my PhD converted to master's, over that time it was more of learning and building these fundamental machine learning systems, especially focused towards natural language processing. So we are talking about LSTMs, we are talking about CNNs, convolutional neural networks, not throwing any jargons over here.
Yeah.
But just to give you an insight around how that has actually shaped in terms of how the product and how the company that we started uses this tech. Now, one important thing I would say is that I've always been a back-end guy. What that means is that I'm really good with handling what goes in the back or in the algorithmic side of things, which means that the front end part, which is how your application looks, that is basically called front-end engineering. So that is something that I did not have as a skill set.
Yeah.
But over the period of the past couple of years, I have picked it up, and that has been truly interesting to work with. And now I can actually use those kind of skills to complement the back-end skills that I had.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you kind of build on that core, added
Exactly.
some new bits to
Absolutely.
kind of yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
And Sneha, I'm interested to kind of get your experiences, particularly in this kind of field as well, kind of, I guess, as a relatively newcomer. Looking more specifically, I guess, at the way AI is being used in retail, what are some of the kind of misconceptions or the way that companies are using AI or think they can use AI in order to be successful within the retail space?
Quite a few retailers in my research I've seen are not really employing AI at this stage. And they have a huge potential to use it, to be honest. Like, they're really big players out there, but they don't have dedicated like data science team, or the tech team is more focused only on the website development, or like just focused what's seen on the internet kind of things. So AI in here can really help them elevate that, quite a few of their budgeting, when I read their annual reports, goes into, for example, the customer service team.
Yeah.
That customer service team, that budgeting can, there are the tickets generated or the live agents that are used that can be kind of reduced for some simple queries by using a smart agent in this scenario. Or like a quick question, because this is the age of internet, right? Like you have literally more than 10 plus tabs open on you. And if you have a waiting time in your live agent, you kind of like the attention span has reduced so much. We tend to move on to our next task pretty quickly. But if you have someone answering to your question quickly, you can hold on to that customer, be involved in the product, and potentially convert them quicker. That's one of the use case they can have. And at this stage, most of the chat bots that are available are not capable of doing that. I think it's to do with, it's basically the adaptation is still a bit slow. It's again to do with the same thing, that how internet was difficult for people to understand when it had come is the same thing for the AI right now. In the sense, this is where the retailers can really think or can imagine in what areas they can employ and reduce the workload so that they can focus that budget into something more like marketing or product development in that sense, and how they can get their work done faster in some of the aspects which can easily be automated using smart agents, or like pricing, for example, which takes weeks for them, can be done quickly now.
Is there an organization that you think are doing it really well?
I probably...
There are
maybe you can't say who it is, maybe it's confidentiality, but...
I don't want to lose a client.
No, that's fair.
That's all good. But one of the things that I would like to highlight is that data is messy.
Yeah.
And that's something which most of the retailers are facing as well. It's they are maintaining different types of data sets. There's customer data, there's product data, there's inventory, there's customer behavior, and so on. And often making sense of these kind of data sets together, it becomes quite a bit of challenge for a lot of retailers, even the bigger retailers. I won't take names over here, but one of the biggest supermarket giants is actually they tried implementing AI solutions for more than like 18 months, and still after 18 months they were not able to deploy it to the production for whatever reasons. But one of the biggest reasons that stood out was that data was messy and they were not able to make sense of it. So that's where even that's one of the challenges that we solve as well for our retailers and our customers, because the data that they have, the first thing that happens is we clean that data and put it in a way that is actually be useful.
Yeah.
Because if we just give random data or the data that we get from the retailers straight away into the model, it pretty much becomes more of garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So the recommendations that we get or they get at their end, they don't make that kind of sense. Yeah. So that's where we emphasize on optimizing the solutions and optimizing the data for them. And that has been one of the winning factors for us too. So
interesting. Again, that's something I hear consistently in business is, we'd love to use AI, or we've got these things we'd love to discover using AI, but we didn't collect the data.
Yep.
Yes.
Or we did collect the data, but no one really put it in the right place or in the right format or the right structure. And it's now so hard to go back and retrospectively do anything about that the opportunity in the short term is missed to be able to look back at the retrospective picture.
Yeah. And that's
But that's always been a problem for data science.
It has, yes. We have a saying, when I started as a data scientist back in 2017, so one of the sayings which were quite funny at that time were that, when you start a data scientist position, even though it was quoted as the sexiest job on the planet at that time, but actually 80% of the time we were just cleaning data, which means that, we were writing different queries to just get data in the shape that can be put into a machine learning model. So it's still quite relevant, I would say. Data cleaning takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah, sure. I think if I look back at that time and my sort of recollection of the kind of early days of data science was that I think companies were hearing examples of big data and data science and some of the incredible predictive analytics, particularly in
data lakes.
Data, that's right. And certainly coming from the UK, organisations like Tesco that had incredible data sets that were really helping them to drive the performance of the business. But I don't think companies quite realise the amount of time they'd have to spend in the investment they'd have to make in tidying up the data to get the interesting stuff.
That's true.
So they kind of abandoned those projects probably too soon. We had a few weeks ago a guy on the podcast, Anupam Singh, from a business called Data AIT.
Right.
And his slogan is IA before AI.
Nice.
And he's really focused on that information architecture piece. And coaching companies through that opportunity. Before they kind of rush to the AI, because they're potentially going to end up disappointed or not really with the product that's helping them to be able to do much.
100%. And I feel that's where educating what you're building and how it ties to your bigger strategy when we are talking about architecture, when we are talking about integrations of their existing systems and existing tech stack. That's one of the biggest pieces even we try to emphasize when we are doing our sales pitches. And what has worked for us so far is that we have done the integrations or kept the integrations in such a way that all the systems can actually talk to each other pretty seamlessly. Which of course enables us to pull the data that we need and provide the data that is coming out of our systems, and use that to pretty much deliver the value that we promised. So educating is probably one of the huge. It's huge. 100%.
Amazing. We're going to move to our lightning round now.
All right. Let's do it.
So to mix things up a little bit. So I'm going to ask you both to take. I'm trying to think how I'm going to do this. I'll tell you what. Pick 3 cards.
Okay.
Take 3 cards total. Now you've got 3 each. That's all good.
All right.
Flip it over. Read the question and give me your answer. And I'll see if it may be relevant to get the answer from both
Easy
of you.
for me. Dog person or cat person?
We've already answered that one. Obviously a dog person.
I'm a cat person. Yep.
What is your cat? What breed of cat?
So we've got 2. One is Chester, who is a domestic long hair, and then there's Gori, who is a domestic short hair.
We adopted them from
They're
Lost Dog
rescued
Home,
cats.
rescued
Yeah. So big shout out to Lost Dogs Homes. So in Kenzo, in Kensington, they're doing some pretty good service to the community.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. What do you got?
I have really difficult one.
You want to swap?
No, it's fine. What does work-life balance mean to you? I quite enjoy my work, so I think my life around it is fun. But that set aside, I like to pursue my hobbies. So in a way, it's like my work is also my hobby. How do I define this?
No, but that's okay, isn't it? Right? I think there's this expectation that people can say, you know, I compartmentalize and I can stop here and then this is my life. And but it's something you're doing as a couple. It's something
I feel
you're building.
like because I enjoy my work, it's fun. Like I really enjoy every aspect of the startup. I don't feel that I need my time off, or in the sense. So yes, setting up boundaries so that in a way that you have set times to do like a gardening or even feeding a cat, for example, or cooking or just taking care of yourself, going to gym or any of those aspects. Yes, I do make sure that I have time for that. But I quite like my work.
It's funny, isn't it? But I feel in the kind of post-COVID era, maybe we're apologetic about liking our job.
Yeah.
That's right. Enjoying work.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So this is like, I don't know how to answer this because I don't need that balance.
That's good. You've got balance. You're happy.
Yeah.
I'll go for
What have
the
you
next
got?
one. All right. So if you could change one thing about your industry, what would it be? That's interesting. I would say, I'll again come back to the education part because I think we just talked about that. It's more about, adaptation of AI and data science. That's something that a lot of organizations want to do, but they don't know how.
Yep.
And if you go to LinkedIn, it's just, it's a circus over there at the moment. If you just open your feed and it's all AI, AI, AI. People talking about AI, even without knowing how the systems work. If there's one thing that I would like to change about that is, maybe read a little bit more about the fundamental systems, how things work, and have more of a systematic or systemic thinking rather than just following the jargon of the day. That's what probably will change things.
It's that, and I can't think what the concept's called. It's completely gone from my head now. But where someone has a small amount of knowledge and they think they know a lot. I can't remember
exactly.
I can't remember what the concept. It's on the tip of my. It will come to me before the end of this. But it's interesting. I think if you roll the clock back 4 years, everything you used to see on LinkedIn was NFTs.
Yes.
And crypto.
And crypto.
And Bitcoin and blockchain.
Yes.
And then suddenly NFTs are gone.
Exactly.
And now everyone's talking about AI. And I'm sure in another 5 years, there'll be something else.
100%. Look what happened with Metaverse, right?
Yeah.
So
that's right.
It was all the hype. People are actually paying hard cash to buy a plot or a house in Metaverse, and it's all gone now.
I think I read this. Right. I think I read something about Justin Bieber
Yes.
buying this NFT for. Did you read this too? Like tens of thousands of dollars, and it's now worth nothing. Like I'm sure he's got the cash to lose. That's why it's probably funny. But it was all the hype. That's what everyone was kind of talking about. And I think the difference is that I think Bitcoin and crypto probably wasn't translatable into day-to-day life.
Yes.
People kind of, well, I've got my cash, I've got my currency, I'm comfortable. Human behavior again, I'm familiar with this. 100%. I know how it works. I don't need... people were more in love with the problem than the solution.
Exactly.
Sorry, the solution than the problem. Whereas I think AI is actually solving problems.
It is.
And I think that's probably where it's got some more stickability by comparison. But I agree, there's definitely a lot of charlatans out there talking about AI and their knowledge of AI, and it's quite apparent that the reality is not there with the expectation.
I feel like from a layman's perspective, AI is something there's someone who can make you understand what's going behind or show you what's going behind and why you're saying what you're saying. Whereas with something like Bitcoin, you can't see it, you can't feel it. So there was a trust factor over there.
Trust again, that's right,
So if I don't see it, how do I know that what I got is real? So that was kind of like, for those who don't understand, I was one of them. Like I was like, if I don't see the cash, if I don't see that it's sitting in a bank, how do I know that it's mine? How do I know I can use it?
That's right.
So, and I can't control its prices. It's going up and down. There's like no control over there. I mean, market's driving it, but still, I know that this $1 is $1 for a reason, but that's not the case with Bitcoin. So I feel like a lot of people would have that kind of, that comfort was not there with
I think what there was probably a lot of early adopters.
Yes.
They got very excited.
Yes.
And they were very noisy, disproportionately. And I say noisy, that sounds like an insult, but they created a lot of volume of noise and content.
It's
discussion.
always a FOMO.
It is, that's right. And then you kind of, people look and go, oh, maybe I should get involved in this. Or, but people then looked at it, didn't really understand it. And to the next generation of adoption just didn't happen. Whereas I think with AI, it's becoming, but I still think that your average person, the way that they consume AI, they won't even know. They'll go to a platform. People don't know how Google works behind the algorithm, behind the scenes. They still use, Google's probably one of the most popular websites in the world.
That's true.
If not the most popular. And I think that AI tools will be the same. Most people don't need to know how to write a prompt. Or how to use the tools, and they want to use the application.
That's well said. And I would say that the more democratized any technology becomes, the more easier it is to adapt it into different formats. So what that means is that when Google initially came in 90s, probably it was hard to use. People were not able to actually see the value of it. But now you can't really live without Google, can you?
That's right.
So if it's
and I've noticed recently when I go to Google. And I run a search, actually at Google Gemini at the top actually gives me essentially runs an AI on this. And I've noticed that I focus more on that result now.
Exactly.
As opposed to the result below it. I'll maybe look a little bit below, but I've started to find that more interesting, and then that's led me off into more curious. And I thought that's a very clever interface because it's slowly incorporating it into my usual habit.
That's true.
Without making me feel suddenly, I'm using AI.
Yes.
Clever.
Absolutely.
They're some of the smartest people on the planet. It doesn't surprise me. They've figured out how to get consumers to engage. Sorry, what do you got next?
We are shaped by the feedback we receive. What is the most significant feedback you received in your career? Early during my PhD, I didn't realize I was a perfectionist, and which was a problem. I would say because you're stuck with the fact that you're not happy with what has come out, and you're so obsessed with how the figure looks or how the experiment is going on. So my supervisor said, good enough is good enough. That's the only sentence she made me repeat 10 times, and I was like, yes, move ahead, move forward, keep going. That has helped me a lot, because quite often, like even with the product development, I'm like, oh, we need to include this, and then I'm like, no, let's just see, is this really a requirement? Do we really need to go ahead and do it? So as long as the basic solution is there, and then we can improvise from there.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting. I ask that question in every podcast, actually, pretty much. And I would say, at least 7, maybe 8 times out of 10, when the person reveals their significant feedback, it normally is specific to a person and it's specific to a specific phrase. And they can actually repeat it. They can actually almost visualize the feedback and how they've applied it today. I kind of liken it to like the voice of Yoda. Like in Star Wars, where Luke's kind of getting the feedback from Yoda and he's kind of remembering the feedback from the past. It's the same thing. You kind of replay. I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan or whether that was completely.
I am.
So you get what I'm going with that, right? It's but it's funny how that actually is how people remember feedback. And when you're in those moments, you apply it. And I think that's the most important feedback we get in our careers.
That was really helpful. And my supervisor being my Yoda PhD supervisor, and she gave me a lot of such nuggets, like in the part of like supervisory role. This really stuck with me, because quite often I would be really obsessed and not be giving her the figures, and I would be like, I can't stop. And she's like, no, good enough is good enough. You have to move forward. So has helped me so far.
That's good. Would you have for your third question?
All right. Third, lucky last. So early bird or night owl? Interesting. I used to be a night owl, but what I've observed in the past 2 years or so working on the startup is that you need to have a discipline in terms of how you work. Moreover, we have been Sneha had been educating me a lot about how human body works, and there's something called a circadian rhythm which we have to understand and value. And what it means is that you need to get those off hours which are meant to be that way right from the early ages, and because of that I have started becoming more of an early person. and yeah, it's been working fantastically well for me. Yeah.
There you go. Have you always been an early person?
Always.
So he's conformed to your style.
Yep.
You just pitched it as circadian rhythm.
For me, I was like, how can you stay awake? Why can't you wake up early? And he's like, why? And I'm like, it's normal. Because that was normal for me.
Yeah. Apparently, I did read this recently. There's some research now that shows that we're kind of genetically predisposed to one or the other.
We are. So some night owlers they tend to be performing better being that way. Yes,
that's right.
True that. But there are like also biological studies showing that lights out, your body starts shutting down. That's when your melatonin comes out. Yeah. Your body is in a repair phase at that state.
Yeah.
So you need to have that rest instead of pushing to stay awake.
Yeah, absolutely.
This.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. What have you got for your last one?
If you could have one superpower, what would it be? I would like to have a lot of them, but if I could, I would want to learn everything. No. I feel marketing is a very important skill to have, and would that be a superpower? Probably not.
We know a superhero with that. We've already talked about it. Josh is a superhero for that.
Because every time I look at him, I'm like, how do you do this? Being a migrant, one of the most difficult aspects for me is not being able to see our family often. So if I could fly really fast over the weekend, meet them and come back. It's really hard. Even with startup now, like there is no shut-off period for us, even though you would think that you define everything, but businesses keep working. So I would have loved to have that.
Do you know, I was talking to someone about this last week, and it's interesting because all three of us here, and in fact all five of us, are migrants to Australia.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things I'm most excited about with the Apple Vision goggles.
Yes.
Is the ability that at some point in the future, because FaceTime's great. I mean, I can't imagine being a migrant without FaceTime or Zoom or Teams and being able to see someone in person. But the idea potentially in the future that we can pop on some goggles and feel like we're in the same room. Have you ever done the kind of VR augmented reality gaming? I did it fairly recently with my kids, and I couldn't believe how realistic.
Yeah, it is.
We all felt like we were physically in this game, and even when you walk along planks and things like that, you feel like you're actually walking over heights and stuff.
Yes.
It's the way that it tricks the mind is incredible.
Amazing.
But immediately I came away and I thought that's going to be interesting in the future. Potentially to be able to connect with people from around the world.
Yes, that's true. So that was one of the things for me when WhatsApp had introduced the video calling feature, which wasn't there. Skype was an option, but like older generation, they're not comfortable. Skype was not that easy to use, whereas WhatsApp is like you take your phone out and make a video call.
Yeah.
So that was a good feature. And then when VR had come, we were like, this would be a future as well, like where we can actually see them in the same room. And that's kind of, and I think this is we were playing this game at Kingpin, a VR game where they had, it's like we were playing this game with zombies around us. So they had introduced this touch feature, which someone's touching you or there's wind hitting you, kind of like giving you that kind of a real feel that you are.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it was amazing because you're so much into the game that you don't feel that, you're just outside the normal people. But in the game, you really felt like someone did touch me and I was screaming there. I was like, oh, this is very silly of me.
That's amazing. That was at Kingpin in Melbourne here.
Yeah. Just near Crown, right? Yeah, that's where it is. It was amazing. And I was like, totally good game.
Yeah.
Do that.
I've got a couple more questions for you. What advice would you give to couples that are thinking about starting up a business together?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, the most important thing, and I think, it works for everyone, is communication. So have a good communication within each other amongst yourselves, and define what exactly do you want to achieve together. If it's a goal which both of you agree on, then making a plan becomes easier, and just communicating and following the action plan is probably going to take you there.
Is there something that you wish you'd known before you started this that you now know?
It is so. It has always worked for us, I guess.
Yeah, we've been very open. Like, be it professional or personal, communication was a very important part of us. Sharing everything very honestly about just what happened at work or what happened in personal life, family, friends. Of course, important aspect, not just rambling.
Yep.
Secondly, was like we made sure, like, one of the things quite often people forget is not forget, but unknowingly end up not it's ego to keep that aside. Like, you can't always, it's like he's never made me feel that he's an expert and I don't understand the concept, and vice versa. So he's been very accommodating in explaining it to me, and being a learner, like, that's very important as an individual. So if that comes, I feel like that would come much easier if you're a couple as well. And the only thing which we did learn was setting up boundaries across our work, like, because especially for me who enjoys this work, I had to set that boundary that I should stop working beyond this point, otherwise it would really have us engulfed 24/7.
Which leads to burnout.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And also probably leads to a lower quality product, customer experience.
Exactly.
All those things. You need the
Flows
break to go away and come back to something with fresh eyes. What are you most proud of that you've achieved so far?
Pretty much, I would say as an individual, I'm very proud that I made the decision to switch the field. I was a bit apprehensive initially because we would see that, okay, PhD, postdoc, this is your pathway to work or go into industry. Whereas for me, I was like, I really need to see how a new tech can come into biology, was what I wanted to do initially. And that's how I wanted to learn more about LLMs, more about how AI in general, for us, like drug discovery or vaccine development would happen. And in Australia, that was still at niche. And for me, someone to learn from was at home. And that's how I got into this field. So in that sense, I'm very grateful of what he's been my guru here, and he constantly is my guru. I'm very proud that we've managed to bring this startup so far 2 years into making officially. But even though we had this in our mind for post-COVID, like what, 3 years, 4 years now. So yeah, what happens in startup is quite often people just lack interest or lose the motivation and drop off. We've managed to have it held high till now and keep moving forward. Mantra has worked for us. Every day, the ability to wake up and go and work on it has really worked out for us. So in that sense, as a couple, I feel like we've managed our professional and personal life really well. We were worried that, okay, startup is going to be problematic, but yeah, let's give it a shot is what he said, and I was like, okay, yay, let's go.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's well said. For me, I guess it was quitting my job. That was 2 years back. So back at that time, I was at Macquarie Bank. And it was good, but the bureaucratic culture and the red tape culture, which any bigger organization has, it kind of limits your innovation or ability to experiment. And one of the reasons why I quit that job was that I wasn't getting that flexibility in experimenting what's actually driving the world at the moment. So I would say that was probably one of the biggest things, and how things have evolved ever since we got to try so many new tech experiments, so many new workflows that we have developed and those kind of things which we wouldn't have if we were in our respective careers. That has worked really well for us.
It's interesting, isn't it? Some people thrive in that structured environment, and they need that throughout their career. Sometimes at the start, sometimes in the middle, or at different times in their career. And for other people, they find it restrictive and they find it a blocker. I don't think either's right or wrong. I think it's about knowing yourself and the environment that brings out the best in you. And kind of learning that relatively quickly in your career. Because you're going to probably find happiness in the right environment. Would be my experience, and from meeting people through being a recruiter, that's normally what I kind of tap into fairly quick. It's finding the right environment to bring out the best in you.
Sure.
What's something that you? It's my last question. What's something that you admire about each other?
Everything.
It's hard to
what's one thing? Here's a different question. What's Gitansh superpower that you would love to steal?
He's just, like the cheerleader question that you had initially. He's just is such a positive person around, it's pretty much everything, I would say. But his hard work, very disciplined, and positive. These three has helped me as an individual a lot since my PhD, I would say, since the time I've met him, in achieving my own goals as well as what I am contributing in startup. He's helped me a lot in all this.
Oh, thank you. For me, I would say her perseverance, which she has brought the never say no, never attitude to anything and everything, like changing your career from one field to another, even if it's in STEM, but it's from immunology to AI. It's commendable that she took that leap of faith, and she has been doing so good in learning every aspect of it and picking up different roles as we go. For example, being a product manager, being an operations person, being more of a person who kind of drives the entire strategy of the company. It's commendable how you have taken up those responsibilities and
kind of
delivered.
My guru is happy with me.
You are the guru over here.
So what are you, I said last question, but this is maybe slightly off topic, but what are you sort of reading? What are you listening to at the moment? What's inspiring you in your lives?
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, including yours. The recent one, which I keep on referring to, is the Y Combinator one. Y Combinator is kind of like a startup program where they teach you different aspects of building the startup, right from product discovery to solving the problem and then eventually raising. Those are some of the topics that I'm reading, and apart from that, it's more of the application side of things, so architecture and engineering principles and those topics which never go old. You always have to keep brushing because something or the other thing is changing. So I would have loved to have some more light reading, but that's not happening at the moment. But that's me.
Great. How about you?
Immunology papers. No, just to keep myself updated on that field as well. What are the new things happening, or any new clinical trial study, like what's the outcome like? Just to be aware of how the medical world is developing, or any new product launch, or AI in drug discovery. That's like the hot topic going on in my field right now. So I end up reading about what the startups are doing in that space, like how are they developing. The forefront of this is by US pretty much dominates this space. So reading on how they work around it, just to understand how AI is being used in that space as well. And then of course keeping myself abreast with what's happening in the retail industry. How are people feeling about AI, or what's the market trend going on, like the McKinsey reports or CB Insights. Those are the kind of things I keep myself updated on. And yes, I go through the company annual reports and quarterly reports quite often. So that's pretty much what I read all the time.
Fantastic.
But as a light read, I'm reading City of Gins by William Dalrymple. It's about Delhi's history, because my in-laws are from New Delhi. So I was curious to know how Delhi came into picture.
Impressed the in-laws.
It already has.
Amazing. Look, thank you both for your time. It's been really insightful and just really different, but just to learn about the journey that you've been on and kind of where you're going. And I'm really excited to see what happens next with the product.
Thank you.
Actually, I did see... I saw the product's called Creta, which I thought that's really interesting. I'm always interested in why products called product names, and I did Google it, and I believe that it's the Hindi for buyer.
For consumer, yes,
consumer.
that's correct.
Yes. There you go.
I'm impressed that you found it out.
I'm always curious with how names come about or things, and I thought there has to be some logic.
We were discussing about Ember for that reason as well today morning.
But what did you come up with?
The logo itself explains it, I would say.
Yeah, in what way?
It's the flame, like like the flame.
Always hungry
the
for
fire, the hunger.
The fire.
It was the fire. It was also the kind of the origin. If you look at a lot of stories around embers, they're to do with the kind of origin story. Of where life comes from, where sustenance comes from. That's one of the things that inspired it.
Amazing.
We were previously called Marshall McAdam. And there was also a nice kind of marketing, Josh would like this, angle, that it was an acronym for everything Marshall McAdam best represents.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
which was Ember.
Okay.
Amazing.
But that was after the event. We realized that was luck. But yes, you're right. It was about the kind of us as recruiters, the fireside chat, the warmth, the nurture, the origin.
That's amazing.
That's really good to know. Yeah.
There you go. Look, thank you for your time. Again, appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure being on this show and on this podcast. And I wish you all the luck with the future podcast. And
we look forward to it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of learning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Tales from Tech Titans, and be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast. If you'd like to get more insights about tech careers, then check out the Ember, that's EMMBR LinkedIn page for the latest updates, articles, and engaging discussions.